Hey guys, Brian from Boas here. I'm packing up some boas for shipping today by FedEx, and I thought I'd show you guys the process I use to package and ship boas. So if you're thinking about having a boa shipped to you and you're curious about how it works, or if you're thinking about shipping some of your own boas or other reptiles in the future, be sure to stay tuned. So the first thing about shipping boas is it's really important to stay well organized. And so I have this notebook that I use, and I record all of my transactions. So whenever someone's interested in a boa, whenever they pay for a boa, whenever we schedule shipping, I write it all in this notebook. I know it's old school, some of you guys use computers, which probably is easier to stay organized. I just like having a written copy. So I write everything in here, and I can just quickly see what boas are going out that week, which boas have shipped already, and which boas are going to ship in the near future. Another important thing about staying organized is to manage your electronic communications, because you'll be dealing with most of the people via email, text, things like that. So I suggest you just have one route of communications. And before I did this, I was getting messages via email, I was getting messages via Facebook, Instagram. Some people would text me, people would use all these handles. I wouldn't even know who the person was. People would just send messages, and I'd be a phone number. I have no idea who it was. So I was just confused as hell, and I spent so much time just trying to figure it out. So from now on, I only use email. Everybody emails me at my email address. People that contact me through Facebook, I tell them email me. Okay, and it's really important. This will save you a lot of time and hassle when you try to figure things out, because you'll be going back to email to check details of what people want, things like that. But I write in this book the exact boa they want, the exact price, all of the information that I need to keep track of. Okay, so once you have the information, you're going to schedule the shipping. You're going to reach out to the buyer after the buyer's paid, and you're going to tell them, this is the date that I'm planning on shipping. Will it work for you? It's important to confirm with the buyer that that date will work, because they're going to have to go to the FedEx ship center to pick up the boa. Another thing that's probably important is you should decide whether you're going to require people to go to the ship center, or if it's okay for you to have boas on the FedEx trucks to be delivered to their home. And I would strongly advise to have them pick them up at the ship center, because it's a lot safer. Because when a boa goes on those FedEx trucks, the climate isn't controlled. It could be on that truck in the winter. It could be cold out, things like that. So the more control you have over the process, the safer and the less risk. Also, the boa will be in transit, for a shorter period, as short as, in some cases, 15 or 16 hours if the person picks it up as soon as it arrives. Okay, so when you're ready to ship, you need to get a FedEx shipping label. And it's really easy to get these shipping labels these days. There are several online services that allow you to ship reptiles, including Reptiles Express, Ship Your Reptiles, and a few others. I personally use Reptiles Express. This isn't a plug for them, it's just who I've used. And you go to that site, you register an account, and you can get the labels there. And it makes it really easy, because to ship reptiles by FedEx, you need special clearance, and it's a lot of paperwork. I don't even know how long it would take, but Reptiles Express, Ship Your Reptiles, these sites already have the clearance. So all you have to do is get an account, and you can ship your reptiles right away. And they have a form online. You just fill in all the information at that form. You can pay by credit card, and then you print one of these FedEx labels. Okay, and they also will give you the other information you're going to need. This is a little label that says the species. Okay, in this case, common boa, Boa imperator, which is important for the CITES compliance. And you don't need to worry about all these localities or morphs or anything like that. You can just say the species, common boa, Boa imperator, or red-tailed boa, Boa constrictor. Those are really the two species that I send, because I don't need to worry about all these localities on the label, at least. And then you have these labels. This just says live animal, so these are important also. So you get your labels. As far as your shipping label, you can get these little plastic pouches at FedEx, and basically I cut out the label, and then I put the label in the pouch, and the pouch has a sticky adhesive side which you can stick to the box. So it makes it really easy to have a nice organized shipment. And then the next thing you have to worry about is the box, okay? You need to ship in an approved type of box. It's got to be a cardboard box with this styrofoam lining, okay? It's like a 3/4 inch thick styrofoam. It can be either black like this or it can be white. And I get these boxes online. Actually, I got this at Ship Your Reptiles. They just had a better deal than Reptiles Express as far as buying the boxes. And so I bought a bunch of them in bulk. And this is the 12 by 9 by 6, 12 by 9 by 6 inches. And it's a good size. You can put up to around 4 or 5 baby snakes in this side box. This is my standard size box. Sometimes I use the smaller cubes like the 7 by 7 by 7, but with those you can only really put one animal in there. And so the box, what I've done is it comes flat and you have to basically use tape. So you need to put tape across the bottom and across the sides. Okay, so 3 pieces of tape, that's important. And then you can see I punched holes in the box on all sides. This is just for ventilation. Okay, and you can see right here, it says, you know, wildlife, harmless live animals. I got reptile checked off. And there's my Lacey Act label. It says common boa, boa imperator, number of animals 1. Okay, and this is what you'll get when you get the label. You can print that out and you can just tape that on there. Next, you need to worry about what the snake is going to be inside of the box. And there are 2 things that I can use, or that I've used to package snakes. Most commonly I use these bags. Okay, so this bag is about 6 by 12 inches, also available in bulk from the reptile shipping companies. And basically I put paper towels in the bag just to act for some cushion and to give the boa something to kind of snuggle up against. And you can see the bag is a drawstring like this. Okay, so it's not a sealed shut. Okay, so you can't just do the drawstring. So I use these zip ties. Okay, basically I just put a zip tie around the neck of the bag and cinch it shut, and I'll show you once I put the snake in there exactly how I do this. But it's important to make sure that the snake is going to stay in the bag, okay, or whatever the container. The other type of container I use are these deli cups. And I usually use the ones that are about 8 inches in diameter, about 3 inches deep. Put some substrate on the bottom. And then I put the lid on and I tape it securely shut. And I've never had it open up, but there's always the chance with a deli cup that it can open up and the snake can get loose. And, you know, that's really not what you want. That's, you know, a really bad thing. And that's incidentally why you put the tape not just across the bottom of the box, but across the sides, just to make sure that, God forbid, if that snake gets out, it's not going to get out of the box. So I have to say that we're really fortunate that we can ship reptiles. And FedEx doesn't have to allow anybody to ship reptiles. They're really the only shipping service that allows this. So we have to be very, very super careful to always package them securely and safely for the snakes, and to never misrepresent, okay? Never put something on that label that's not, okay? So if you're shipping, you know, a green mamba, don't call it a boa constrictor. And incidentally, you can't ship anything venomous, which obviously makes sense. But back to the deli cups. I once had someone ship me some boas and they had put them in deli cups, and you know, they had actually 2 boas that were probably about 2 feet long. They were kind of stuffed into this small deli cup. I couldn't believe it. And the deli cup had opened during the shipment, so one of the boas was loose. Luckily it didn't get out of the box. But you know, this is something you really, really want to avoid. So always take extra precautions to make sure that your shipping and packaging is really secure. Okay, so the next thing we have to decide is whether or not to use one of these heat packs. And so for shipping, you want to ship during the right weather. And I'll just say offhand, I don't ship anything when temperatures are above 90 degrees Fahrenheit or below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And that is the daily high on both the shipping end and the receiving end, as well as the hub. So for example, most of these packages go through Memphis, Tennessee, so I got to look at the weather in Memphis and make sure it's in the range. But right now we have pretty decent shipping weather. It's early November. We'll probably have good weather for another 2 to 3 weeks. Then it's going to probably get too cold for parts of the country. But I will use these little heat packs when it gets too cold. And typically when it's below 70, as far as the temperature on either side, and this includes the lows, I'll use one of these heat packs. So typically between 40 and 70, I use a heat pack. Even if it's a little bit warmer on the receiving end, right now it's around 50 degrees where I live. You know, we have a steady drizzle outside. So I'm going to use one of these heat packs on the shipping today. And I checked the weather on the receiving end, and they're going mostly to the East Coast. There's nothing that's going to be too cold, so we have really good weather. So the heat pack, this is a 40-hour heat pack. So if God forbid the shipment gets stuck for an extra day, you know, today's Tuesday, it should arrive tomorrow, Wednesday morning. But if it for some reason doesn't arrive till Thursday morning, this heat pack is still going to have some heat in it. I'm packing up on the afternoon of Tuesday. And then incidentally, I always like to ship on Tuesday. It's the safest day for FedEx shipments. You want to ship early in the week because if there is a delay, you don't ever want packages to be stuck over the weekend, because then they'll just sit there for the weekend. You can ship Monday. It's a little riskier because you have potential issues from, you know, weekend delays. So Tuesday is the best day. I sometimes ship Monday. Sometimes I even ship Wednesdays for Thursday arrival. But Tuesday is the day that I like to ship the most. I will never ship Thursday or Friday though. So this is a 40-hour heat pack, and it's a chemical heat pack. It's sealed in a plastic wrapper. Basically, you just open up the wrapper like this, and you expose the heat pack to the oxygen in the air. Just shake it up a bit, and that will start the chemical reaction and will start to emit heat. And so this takes a few minutes. So I'm just going to stop the camera. I'm going to let it heat up for a few minutes, and then I'm going to continue. Okay, a few minutes have gone by, and I can feel the heat coming out, so I know that this heat pack is good. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape it to one of the short sides of the box. So I've removed the foam. And so it's important with these heat packs, you want this red stripe facing out, because that's where the heat comes out. And I use some tape to just secure it in place. So for today's shipment, I'm taping it to the short end. Sometimes I tape it to the top of the box, like if I have multiple animals in the box. But for today, I just have the one animal, so I'm going to tape it to the side. Okay, and incidentally, it's important not to use these heat packs if it's too warm. Okay, because if it's hot out and the heat builds up, you can actually fry the animal. And I've even heard stories about people that have used multiple heat packs, which is another no-no unless you have a really big box, and the animal ends up frying. So be really careful with these heat packs. I also would not use them in any box smaller than the 12 by 9 by 7. Okay, so those cube boxes, like the 7 by 7 by 7 cube, you don't want to use a heat pack in those either. Just a little bit of tape across the bottom. Okay, so there we have it, it's in place. And with this tape, you really have to make sure that the end doesn't stick back down, because it drives me crazy trying to get this unstuck. So I'll just like stick it to something like that so I know it's not going to get stuck back down. Okay, so there is the heat pack. So now I'm going to just insert it back into the box, and you can see the heat pack is on one side, the snake's going to go here, and it's going to warm up the box. So the next thing is you want to put in some packing material, and you can use a number of choices. I personally just use newspaper. Okay, it's free, it does the job well. And basically I just crumple up a few sheets like this. Usually I use about 6 sheets per box. So that's 4, put in a couple more. These are just, okay, so we have this nice little nest, and the boa is going to go in there in its bag, and it's going to be nice and snug and secure with the heat pack. Notice the heat pack on one side, so the boa could theoretically move in the bag from one end to the other to regulate the temperature. Although with this heat pack in place, this should make for a nice snug temperature, probably in the low 80s. So another thing that I'll say is that you may notice I'm shipping as cold as 40 degrees, and it sounds like that's really cold, but the snake is not going to be exposed to 40 degrees. That's just the temperature outside. Okay, so the snake is going to go from the FedEx ship center to the airport on the plane. It's going to fly to the hub, which is most likely Memphis, go onto another plane, and then go to the final hub destination, and then to your ship center. So it's outside for just a small percentage of the time when it's being transferred, and so it's not, you don't have to worry that it's got 40 degrees, it's gonna do any damage, because we have the heat pack and because it's not actually exposed to those temperatures. And again, that's why I have people pick up at the ship center rather than have the trucks take it, because it reduces the risk even more. Now that we have our packaging, it's time to put the snake in the bag. And this snake is a cocker key boa. It's going out in the shipment, and so I carefully checked against the records that this is the snake, it's the exact snake that this person ordered. And this snake also has not eaten in the last week. It's important not to feed boas for the week before shipping, because then they might regurgitate. So I'm going to put the snake into the bag. Okay, gently put him in there, and usually he'll coil around the paper towels. Then I want to cinch up the drawstring, and then I'm going to get my zip tie like this, and I'm going to zip it shut at the top of the neck of the bag. You obviously want to make sure that the boa is down here and it's not going to get stuck in the zip tie or anything like that, but cinch it tightly, and then you want to clip off the remaining end like that. As far as this little drawstring, what I do is I just kind of loop it around, put a couple knots in there just to get it out of the way like that, and the boa is ready to go. So this is just the only boa, so in the shipment I'm not going to write the ID, but if you have multiple boas, males and females, etc., you want to write the ID across the bag. You want to do this before you put the snake in the bag, and I usually use the Sharpie. Okay, so now the bag is going to go into the box. Okay, and I just gently lay it in the box. Okay, like this. You can see the bag is nicely nestled among the newspaper. Okay, nice and comfy. Okay, and then there's some newspaper at the top, and the heater's emitting the heat. So this guy's all ready to go for his transit to his final destination, which, if things go as planned, should take about 16 hours or so until he gets to the FedEx ship center tomorrow morning. So then I'm going to put the lid in place like that. So other information I include, I put on top of the lid, and so I have a receipt for everybody. Itemized receipt has all the information. I also send out my terms of sale, which is available online. It's actually in the description below the video. There's a link, but I always like to remind people of the terms of sale, so that's sent out as well. And then finally I have the feed record card. Okay, this says the birth date, when all the dates of feeding, what they fed, and when they've had shed. So it's a record card. So I include that for the buyer. And you can see this all just goes on top of the box like this. We're almost ready to go. Last thing to do is just to tape the box shut and put the label on. And so I'm going to tape across the top. You can see the tape on the top, but again, it's important to tape across the sides. So I'm just going to put one piece of tape across each of the two sides. Then I'm gonna, you can see the tape across the sides there. I'm gonna kind of fold it down like this. Do that on this side. Okay, and then kind of push it in place. So it's all taped up. And lastly, I'm just going to attach this label. Okay, so you just take off the backing, and then you just stick it down across the top. Okay, so there we have a boa that's ready to be shipped. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to get in the car, drive to my local FedEx ship center, drop off the package. The other thing I wanted to point out is that there's a tracking number on these FedEx shipments. It's important to share the tracking number with the buyer once you have it, so the buyer can track the shipment. And then it's important to also track the shipment on your end. So I check in the morning just to see if the package has reached its destination or where it's at. And I also request for all the buyers that they email me when they get the shipment. Let me know how everything looks. Let me know if they have any questions or comments about the shipment. I just want to do everything I can to make the shipment go as smoothly as possible. So anyway, that's how I ship my reptiles. Hope this video was somewhat insightful and helpful. As always, shoot me any questions or comments. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your boas.